What's cracking, y'all? Welcome to I Am Boo. Thanks for stepping through. Got a new one for you. The infamous Jaws ride incident. From the YouTube channel Disasterthon True Horror. Never heard of this YouTuber, but we'll see what it's all about. Now listen, I grew up in Florida. I know something about, theme parks. Now, assuming this is Universal Studios Orlando, assuming that's what we're talking about, I've never heard of the Jaws ride incident. All my years of living in Florida, I'm talking over 20 years, never knew there was an accident on the Jaws ride. So let's see what's going on with this.
In the summer of 1990, Universal Studios Florida opened to the public for the first time.
There it is.
Among its most heavily promoted attractions was Jaws the Ride, an ambitious, effects-driven experience based on the blockbuster film. Guests would board a boat for a guided tour to Amity Island, only to be...
In case anybody's wondering, I do believe that ride is still up to this day. I think Jaws is still standing.
Attacked by a 25-foot animatronic shark. It was marketed as a headliner, a cutting-edge thrill ride that would set Universal apart from Disney's more family-friendly offerings. But the original Jaws ride was a failure from day one. Mechanical issues, software malfunctions, and poor engineering plagued the attraction immediately. This is much like the film, actually, come to think of it, but that's a different story. Boats stalled mid-ride, sharks didn't appear, or worse, got stuck inches from guests, and within 2 months of opening, the original ride was shut down entirely. Universal blamed technical issues, but in reality, it was something much deeper. During that chaotic first summer, one man fell into the water beside the shark. Guests thought it was part of the show, but it wasn't. This is the story of Universal's most infamous ride, the engineering disaster, the incident, and the multi-million-dollar fix that saved it, at least for a little while. This is the infamous story of the Jaws ride incident.
I never knew about this. I never knew it got off to a rough start either.
When Universal Studios Florida opened in June 1990, it was already in trouble. Construction delays had pushed the park's launch past schedule, and key attractions weren't ready or were barely functioning. Universal had made bold promises about delivering a next-generation theme park experience. Real movie magic, brought to life through actors, practical effects, and advanced ride systems. But unlike Disney, Universal didn't have decades of experience running large-scale parks. That inexperience showed almost immediately. The Jaws ride was supposed to be one of Universal's crown jewels. The concept was ambitious to say the least. Guests would board a pontoon boat for a scenic tour of Amity Island when a massive shark attack suddenly interrupts the calm. The experience would include pyrotechnics, water effects, boat-mounted grenade launchers, and a 25-foot-long animatronic shark that could lunge out of the water on cue. The shark was programmed to attack the boat multiple times before being killed in a fiery finale. But the ride's complexity was its undoing. The animatronic shark was unreliable. The underwater track system that moved it along would jam or misfire. Boats stalled in the middle of the lagoon, with guests stranded in full Florida sun. On opening day alone, the ride broke down repeatedly. Malfunctions became a daily occurrence. Maintenance crews struggled to keep it operational, and operations staff often had to improvise live solutions in front of guests. By late July 1990, just weeks after opening, Universal made the decision to shut the ride down entirely. It was costing too much to maintain and had become a liability. Internally, Universal blamed the ride's original contractor, Ride & Show Engineering, and filed a lawsuit accusing the company of failing to deliver a functional attraction. But behind all the technical failure, something else happened that summer, something that wouldn't come out until a federal lawsuit was filed. A guest had fallen into the water, the shark was nearby, and it wasn't a drill. On a family vacation in July...
Assuming this guy is still alive, we'll find out. He's lucky that's not a real shark. It's programmed to just go his route, so as long as he wasn't in the way of the shark, it shouldn't have had any type of contact.
By 1990, Anthony Salamone, a 39-year-old bank officer from Sicklerville, New Jersey, experienced something no guest should have endured on a theme park ride. Salamone was aboard the Jaws ride when a railing on the pontoon boat broke, causing him to fall into the water.
Oh.
The ride's lagoon was about 8 feet deep, and as Salamone surfaced, the mechanical shark, the centerpiece of the attraction, approached him. His children reportedly screamed, "The shark's gonna eat Daddy," as Universal employees scrambled to rescue him. According to Salamone, during the rescue, he slipped and fell into the water a second time before being pulled back onto the boat. Though Salamone escaped serious injury, he suffered bruises and a scraped leg, and later caught a cold from being wet and exposed. Guests on the ride reportedly applauded, believing that the fall was part of the show, so as they were having the time of their lives, Salamone and his children were definitely not. Following the incident, Anthony Salamone filed a $1 million lawsuit against Universal, accusing the company of gross negligence and careless maintenance of the attraction.
So the last time I went on that ride, there are no harnesses. You're just sitting down in a boat, so believable.
According to the complaints, Universal failed to ensure the safety barriers on the boat were properly secured and had not trained employees to adequately respond to emergency situations involving a guest in the water, especially in close proximity to a moving mechanical predator. The case was first filed in federal court in New Jersey, but Universal successfully petitioned to have it moved to the US District Court in Orlando, Florida, where the company was headquartered. This allowed Universal to litigate the case on home turf and keep tighter control over local press coverage, which was already starting to raise questions about broader safety issues at the newly opened park. Universal denied any wrongdoing. Their in-house attorney, Ron Sykes, publicly stated that the company disagreed with the plaintiff's account of the event. However, they failed to comment any further. They also declined to release details about other safety incidents on the Jaws ride, and it remained unclear whether Salamone's fall was isolated or part of a pattern. When asked if others had ever fallen from the ride, they declined to answer. No safety report was made publicly available. Universal's PR team downplayed the incident, focusing instead on a broader technical issue and ride maintenance. But behind the scenes, the company made a decisive move. The original ride was permanently shut down just weeks later. Every mechanical element, the boats, the shark, the underwater track system, was dismantled and discarded. The engineering firm behind the design, Ride and Show Engineering, was then sued by Universal for breach of contract, but the story wouldn't end there. More information would come out about the incident years later. Jeff Quay, one of the ride operators, was interviewed years later and would describe the incident. He actually disagreed with how it all went down. He claimed that the incident happened where the mechanical shark attacked the boat. Due to a missing pin in the bar, it came off, causing the man to fall in. He said where the man fell in had the most machinery in the lagoon, the worst possible place to fall in. These pits where the shark would be could go as deep as 40 feet. So imagine falling into a deep pit of dark water and coming face to face with a mechanic that I am showing on screen right now. Pretty terrifying. After falling in, the emergency stop button was hit, and he said that the man was pulled instantly out of the water, which completely contrasts with the story told by Salamone. So it's up to you which story you'd believe. After the original Jaws ride was shut down in the summer of 1990, Universal had a choice to make: quietly remove the failed attraction and write it off as a learning experience, or rebuild it from scratch and try again. As history tells, they chose the latter.
Right.
Behind the scenes, Universal terminated its relationship with Ride and Show Engineering and brought in new contractors, including Ocean Engineering and Action Systems, companies with stronger backgrounds in large-scale animatronics and hydraulic systems. The new version of the ride scrapped the original underwater guidance rail and replaced the entire control system with a more stable, sensor-driven track and mechanical timing setup. Explosions were redesigned to be more consistent, and the
Let me tell you, those explosions are hot.
shark's movements were simplified but made more reliable. Everything that had gone wrong in 1990 was re-engineered to never happen again. It took nearly 3 years to complete. In 1993, the Jaws ride reopened to the public, this time working exactly as advertised. The relaunch was a huge success. The new version delivered what Universal had promised from the beginning: a cinematic, adrenaline-fueled tour of Amity Island complete with explosions, close calls, and a satisfying mechanical shark death in a sea of flames. Guests loved it. The attraction quickly became one of the park's most iconic experiences. For many park visitors, the Jaws ride defined their trip, and many have fond memories of it to this day. But while the ride worked on the surface, it was never cheap to operate. The animatronics required constant maintenance, and the water-based setting introduced daily complications. And also, the special effects were analog and labor-intensive. Long story short, the whole ride was expensive and over time, so Universal began to rethink its long-term value. By the early 2010s, Universal's strategic direction had changed. With the massive success of the Wizarding World of Harry Potter, the
Guess I was wrong. I guess they got rid of it. I thought it was still there.
company saw an opportunity to transform its parks entirely, trading nostalgia for intellectual property with global reach. Older rides like the Jaws ride were now seen as liabilities and not assets. On January the 2nd, 2012, Universal shut down the Jaws ride permanently. The area was immediately walled off, and demolition began shortly after. By 2014, the site had been completely transformed into Diagon Alley, the second phase of Universal's Harry Potter expansion. The shark was gone, the lagoon drained, and with it, one of the park's most troubled and most beloved attractions disappeared for good. Today, traces of the original ride survive only in archived footage, fan videos, and the memories of those who were there, especially the ones who, for a brief moment, came a little too close to the shark.
My bad for the misinformation there. I could have sworn I was just at Universal a couple of years ago. I went with my friend, and it's not the spectacle that it was like back in the day. I can assure you that. But I remember seeing that picture they showed of Jaws hanging by its tail or whatever. I remember seeing that. That's why I thought the ride was still around somewhere, and I just missed it. It was in that area, the Fisherman's Wharf area. I remember seeing that Jaws hanging. That's what made me think it was still there. But maybe they just put that there, as because of its historic value to Universal Studios. They put that there as a beacon, or to never forget. Remember, this was one of the establishing forefathers, if you want to say, of Universal Studios. One of the major icons and major rides people will come and see. So that's probably why that's there. But I know I saw that picture. I was there. Pretty sure I took a picture of my friend standing next to it. So that's why I thought the ride was still there and operating. But I guess I'm wrong. But like back in the day, those Universal Studios commercials, ride the movies, right? That's what you say, ride the movies. Before I ever went there, it was just like I was just always in awe of those commercials. The Jaws ride, the E.T. ride, and the King Kong ride was terrifying watching it on TV. I was like, I don't know if I have the balls to go on that ride. Man, I tell you, I missed the 90s. That was a great decade. But yeah, I had no idea that all this happened. All of that. Didn't have a clue. That's hilarious. His kids, his daughters were screaming, "The shark's gonna eat Daddy!" I think Daddy's more concerned about whatever mechanical equipment is below his feet. You don't want to get trapped or caught in something like that. Who knows its functionality and what it can do to you. So, interesting stuff. But yeah, man, that was a complete cluster F. Like, that ride would have to go through 100 test rides before I even opened it up to people. And of those 100 test rides, I need 99 of them at a minimum. 99 of them. No, I need 100 of them to go off perfectly without a hitch, to be honest. Because it's never a good look to have a ride malfunction. Especially, you might be able to get away with some things, like, the shark fails to pop up in one of the areas that might be passable, might not be noticeable to most people, but something like the boat getting stuck, or the shark just staying there, or something like that, or there's none of the sharks popping up at all, that's like, that's going to be hard to recover from. Word of mouth is going to go around. But anyway, that's all I got to say about it. That was a fun watch. Thank you for watching. Thank you for stepping in. Like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell, stay notified, and go check out Universal.
Keep the change, you filthy animal.